I had actual feedback from someone at lunch today.
Oh my God, what was it?
I mean, I think generally it was positive, um, but also they said they enjoyed the fact that we didn't say anything about who we were or do any introductions. We just started talking, which yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, how would you be listening if you didn't already know who we were?
It seems really unlikely that you would just want to hear that you'd just be drawn to the name WIP and you just had to listen to a podcast about very loosely about advertising.
Exactly, exactly. And he contrasted it with another podcast he enjoyed, which was about a game he played, where he said they must have spent 20 minutes explaining who they were, what it was all about, all that kind of thing. And he said, I still listened, but really, he said, just crash in, start talking, work it out.
For context, the
Hmm.
question we've been asked and that we're responding to today, because this is a structured, almost rigidly scripted podcast.
Yes, it's
that we,
scripted
we,
reality. That's what's
We've
going
been asked to talk about ads that we remember and not even why, just what do we remember from our
on.
childhood?
Can
Yeah.
you remember anything from your childhood?
Yeah, exactly. What's your memories of the 80s in my case? Dim. And we've got loads. We've got
Yeah,
loads.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you want to
Um,
start with one? Go with one.
yeah, so I'm gonna a lot of mine, and this may show the superficiality of my brain and the way that my memory now doesn't work, is a lot of them are jingles. So will you let me know if you can hear this? I'm gonna
Yeah.
play it.
Okay.
Did you hear that? Bugger. Okay.
Can
Share.
you?
What happens when we share?
Oh, press share.
If you live in a high water area, you'll be familiar with this. This is lime scale, and it just keeps building up day after day. It can really do a lot of damage to a washing machine. This heating element was like this only a year ago. So, to stop the build-up of lime scale, the best thing to use is Calgon. One tablet in every wash will help keep your machine working efficiently for a long, long time.
Washing machines live longer with Calgon.
The only thing is, you won't see so much of me.
That was the first one. Washing machines live longer with Calgon. I don't think Calgon even exists anymore. That was huge. That was huge for me for a few reasons. One, they were incredibly dull, really, really serious guy with the element from the thing being like, this is really built up like a lot of calcification, very earnest northern bloke. And it was like a really hardcore demo that went on for a minute. And then there was the jingle, which made up for it. And I think it probably falls into the earworm category of annoying, which is why I remembered it. And it was just relentless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but really set me up nicely for a blissful 2.5 years working on household care, Unilever, including Sun dishwasher tablets. And I was warm for it. I was primed
Did
as a
you
result.
did you lobby for a jingle?
Constantly. I mean, I very rarely drop the jingle rant. I think it's just go for it. Why not? The worst you could do is be annoying, but you'll still be remembered. Case in point, live case.
Can you sing it now?
Can I? It's been a long week, Russell. It's a big ask. Washing machines live longer with Cal. There you go.
I like the little dance as well. That
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to make it a bit groovy. So yeah, so that's the first one, and I've got a lot of very different references. There's one that I'm not going to play the whole one for, and it's one that we can just flash up a picture of it. But the gold blend, obviously like saga family couple.
yeah, yeah,
My little sister reminded me that Giles from Buffy, Anthony Stewart Head was in it. Formative. She didn't say it, but I felt like she was referencing her own sexual awakening when she talked about his presence in the ad. So just gonna give her a shout out for that. But everybody knows the Gold Blend ads. Everybody knows the Gold Blend couple, right?
yeah. Thing that anyone does anymore, is it? Like a soap opera-y series of ads. I mean, it wasn't a thing a lot of people did, but it's obviously a good idea. But imagine the organisational consistency and rigour you'd have to do that, where maybe a new ad every year, maybe they weren't that often. They didn't come around that frequently, I don't think.
No, and it's one of the few constructs from like 30 years ago that's still cited as like, oh, we could do a Gold Blend couple. No one ever does it, but it's one of the conceits or structures that people still talk about.
Yeah. I
Um,
wonder if a lot of people start doing it. Like they sell the idea of the Goldblum couple, do the first ad, and then it never, find a reason to cancel it, or I don't know.
in the same way that it's hard to have a consistently good soap opera without it becoming just completely lunatic, involving like aliens, time travel, evil twins, amnesia, to do a consistently entertaining couple dynamic over I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes me think, I have a vague feeling that maybe they didn't know at the beginning that it was going to be an ongoing series. They just made one and then it was popular, so they kept it going. I can imagine that's more likely as well. And probably the sort of thing we could look up and we could have researched
We
before.
could have researched rigorously. Yeah, we did
Yeah,
not. We did
no.
not.
But that's a gift to our listeners who have the opportunity to do that for themselves now.
I would love to be put right on this. Please, can someone correct us with some actual research? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got
I
quite a
think that
rowdy.
that could be one of the mottos of this podcast. Could someone correct us with the actual research? Would
Yeah,
be.
you're asking the questions. You're correcting us when we get it wrong. You're in control.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a jingle right back at you, so I'm going to try sharing.
This is just like work now. Am I sharing it? Can you see it?
Can you see my screen?
Leave it to lead, leave it to lead. Song and dance. Leave it comfortably, elegantly. Leave it, leave it, leave it to lead, leave it to lead. Song and dance. Leave it tastefully, coordinately, playfully. Leave it to Lee Longlands.
Leave it to Lee Longlands, Broad Street, Birmingham.
I can. Exquisite. So much going on there. Love it. Jaunty, almost sinister callback of leave it, almost threatening. I love the animated type.
Yeah, yeah.
Lovely
yeah,
and dynamic.
yeah.
Against the stills of people looking at carpet samples like they're dead. I love
Yeah.
that.
I have to say, I think is probably the number one memory of my childhood. That it had everything, like the manic bongo playing is just,
Yes.
which is fat, and it just goes on like you think it's going to stop.
No,
and
it won't.
Doesn't stop, comes around again, and then the man comes in just to explain more over the top. The glamour of Broad Street, Birmingham, which, if you're from the East Midlands, is like the promised land. But the thing it took me, and that used to be on all the time for years through probably, I guess, the 70s, maybe the 80s, but just was always on. Is the lyrics. So it's like leave it to Lee, leave it to Lee, leave it to Lee Longlands, clever, and then leave it, I think, tastefully, elegantly, playfully, and then coordinately. And you're like, that's not a word.
It isn't. It should be.
It's
Maybe.
But you imagine the writer who's going, right, I can make this work. Leave it to Lee, tastefully, playfully, elegantly, coordinately, and everyone's like, oh, okay, we'll go with it. We'll go with it. So good, so good.
I can see why you chose that.
Yeah. Me and my brother would march round the house going, leave it to Lee, leave.
That's excellent. I've got a a big shift in mood now.
Oh,
Let me just cue it up. Very different musical cadence. So just for everyone, just to prepare for that.
it's not going to be Davidoff, is it?
No.
Frutella, too juicy for the news, too fruity for a snooze, too juicy for this snap. Frutella, too juicy for my sis, so fruity he can't miss, too juicy for these sounds. Frutella, too juicy for my mouse, too fruity for my house, nothing Frutella too juicy for you?
So obviously that's amazing. Just a small moment just to marvel at the fact that it's still the same. Oh, hang on. It's still the same packaging now.
Frutella.
It's the same packaging.
I mean, it's good packaging.
Great
Why-
packaging.
why would you
So
change it?
I had one yesterday, and it's the same.
Do you think because of that ad?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Also, they know that it's crucially the product stands up to the promise of the ad. So there's true alignment of brand and product there. It's not too juicy. Actually, it's just the right amount of juiciness. Watching that back now, a few thoughts. I mean, the incredibly glamorous chauffeuress, completely passed me by. Obviously, pre-puberty, no idea. Now I'm like, wow. How irritating the boy is, obviously. How nightmarish the grandmother is, rocking back and forth. But it was all about the track. It was all about the track.
Yeah. And
because
also, presumably, that thing of you imagine presenting that. It's one of those, and there'd be some ancient creative director going, but what's the idea? And you just go, well, we've got this track. We're going to, stuff will happen in the studio. It's too juicy.
Yeah, it's
What do you want?
a concept. It's a vibe. It's idea is probably too big a word for it, but that's okay.
And there will have been the endless conversation but can we afford the track? Does it work if we don't have the track? No.
Yeah, it absolutely does not work without the track because then it's just quite an annoying boy with an oddly greaser hairstyle.
Yeah.
Albeit a great, plaid jacket, just pissing people off actually.
Yeah.
Although very, very good work at the end, sleight of hand, holding four packets simultaneous. Really, really good handwork there.
Being
So
stuck to his hands by
a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought when you said shift in mood, I thought we were going to get, Davidoff Blue Water or some sort of giving you a fragrance obsession.
My fragrance obsession does suggest to me that we have a whole fragrance session. I think I'd really like because there almost should be like a chronological just dissection of how mad perfume ads have been for so long. So I would suggest that that's almost. We haven't asked a question about it, but please somebody ask us a question about
We need to
perfume.
get someone to ask us a question about perfume ads. We'll be right there. Okay, I've got one. Given that you haven't brought the mood right down, East Midlands in the 80s, this will be etched on your liver, frankly, or something. Share screen. It is like work, isn't it?
Yeah,
God.
exactly.
We've just recreated our working day as a podcast. How sad are we? Right.
First for value, first for choice. That's Don Amott for new and used tourers, motorhomes and static caravans with the best selection of sites just off the A38 between Derby and Burton.
Don Amott, king of caravans, the price is right and the choice is yours.
It's got a map with a helpful flashing little red square.
And they
Love
take
that.
it on the
Why don't we do that
A38.
anymore?
On the A38 between Derby and Burton. That's
Brilliant.
where
Consistent brand character.
Lion,
Yeah.
King
really
of the Jungle, but Don Amott, King of Caravans.
We don't do the thing of 3 things on screen. So you've got the recessed thing and then you've got the consistent thing. It's so much information. And yet not too busy, perfectly balanced.
No. And I think, probably relying on probably grew out of the Don Amott leaflet. You've got to imagine that for years it was just a leaflet and it became an ad. But also relied on the fact that, again, they probably imagined it would be on air for 10 years. And it probably was.
Yeah.
And again, everyone, you would just march around school and someone would go, Don Amott. And that everyone else would be like, King of Caravans. It's kind of, that's what you want, right? You want the whole of a large secondary school singing Don Amott. I believe Don Amott is still going.
No, really.
Yeah, and presumably still King of Caravans.
I'm now really regretting not having had like a slide because it's all like, oh, we've got to get the word into culture. We need to make the brand part of the vernacular, and the ultimate torture test should be: are teenagers using it to drive each other insane?
Yeah.
Like, is it something that they use to torture each other?
Well, yeah. I mean, 40 years ago, we didn't know that what this was a meme. That's what
Yes,
that's what this was. But
meme. What a thought.
I mean, but jingles, where have they gone? Why?
Well, there's a whole jingle, conversation we should have because I don't need to play. There are some that I don't arguably don't need to play because they're
Yeah.
sufficiently fresh or like Maybelline. Like maybe it's Maybelline. Like that was my brother's one. Despite not being a purveyor of makeup, that was the first thing at the top of his head. Um, he didn't remember an ad. He remembered the jingle from the
Yeah.
brand.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what else did we have on
What
there?
else have you got in the jingle?
Well, it is something that like Knorr is a brand now that I'm like it's quite impressive what they've shifted into and the way that they're still trying to inject what is quite a low interest category because it's food but it's food adjacent because it's stock and so it's quite difficult so and then what they're doing now is valid and great but back in the day Knorr they've got the know-how. Do you remember that? um
I mean, genius. Genius.
Absolute genius. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was gonna play. Let me see if I can get this to play.
Do they?
They're good, aren't they, Tony?
Wrong! Frosties are great!
Tony, help! You've gotta help! We're one rider short!
Okay, you've got a tiger on your team.
Come on your bike, Tony.
Okay, champ, let's go!
Kellogg's Frosties turns a good breakfast into a great breakfast.
Come on, you'll learn fast, Tony.
Sure, I took a crash course.
Kellogg's Frosties bring out the tiger in you.
And you!
Him bellowing in a child's face. Wrong. Absolutely incredible. Wrong. It's great.
Whatever that sport was, like motorcyclo,
Motocross, something like that. I mean, wildly dangerous.
but also youth marketeers and stuff, sort of obsessed with things no one does. That kind of like we need to show an active outdoor activity. Well, football. No, it's
Not enough danger. Yeah.
Yeah.
We want jeopardy. And just imagining like the ask of you've got to get someone doing a wheelie, but presumably they couldn't be a bulky dude because you've got to place the image of Tony on the top and it's pre-CGI and like it's all animated.
Yeah. Probably hand-drawn animation or something.
Right.
Yeah. A technical marvel.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, actually, when you think about it. And like the murky world of voice artists, because it seems like there's very little consistency in it. Because I've worked on brands where they're like, we need to get X, and every year they're putting their rates up, and everybody starts to sweat and be like, oh God, we have to have them. It's like, do we?
Or can we just get an X type?
Right. And then actually you've got somebody who just jogs along quite happily and they're like, oh, they put their rates up and everyone's like, buy £250. It's like, oh, we're saved. And that's a very tense conversation every year.
Yeah.
But it appears like it's not, the correlation isn't always to how famous the brand is or indeed how famous the voice artist is. Sometimes you'll just have somebody who just, maybe whisper it. Maybe they just like doing it. Maybe they just like having the work. I don't know.
Actually, thinking about it, they're great. I guess again, I suppose it was someone had to present this and go. It might obviously they're great isn't a strategically breakthrough thought, but we're going to have him roll the R's. That's a moment that
we're making a new word.
Yeah.
We're reclaiming great and making it great. And it's not a legal claim, so it doesn't matter that it's covered in sugar and isn't great. Actually, it's the opposite of great. It's a sugar crash waiting to happen. It's terrible. Arguably,
can't be advertised before 9 o'clock.
Well, it's definitely a world away from. I don't know if you saw the Kellogg's campaign, like the master brand campaign. It came out at the end of last year, the Leo Burnett stuff, because they've had Kellogg's forever. And it's like You know the KFC work, which is Believe, which was like all a huge chicken being worshipped. Have you seen that? Okay, it's as nuts as it sounds, and it's also phenomenal. And then
Okay.
what was really confusing is about 3 months after that, Kellogg's released their master brand campaign, which is the off cornflakes, the chicken, huge and made flesh, stomping through an American city. So there were two literal big chicken campaigns released doing very different things, close enough together in time that, people like my parents will get confused. They're like, is it chicken? Is it cereal? What do you want me to do?
Yeah, yeah.
Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, I'd forgotten it. I briefly worked at Burnett's in the early '90s or something. No, mid '90s, and I did a little bit of stuff on Kellogg's, not very much, and none of it any good. And but I just remember they were obsessed with cinnamon.
Really?
There was a massive thing, and again, I think because Burnett's had a lot of American brands, right? They were the sort
Yeah,
of
yeah,
British
yeah.
ambassadors for American brands. They're upset because everything they marketed had a cinnamon variant that did enormous business everywhere in the world, apart from the UK. So they were constantly like, how do we get? It's a bit like Lipton's tea.
Hmm.
People are always going, Lipton's is massive everywhere in the world, not in the UK, so we're going to try again. Try again. And the cinnamon variant of cornflakes or whatever, Frosties, or I remember the account person at Burnett's like tearing their hair, going, "Fucking cinnamon!"
Oh
It's
God.
just like,
I'm actually a
like we
cinnamon
don't
fan.
like cinnamon. We don't like cinnamon.
Well, I'm rebutting that. I like cinnamon. I would like to have more cinnamon cereals marketed directly at me. I think like come back, bring it
I think,
back.
well, at the next juncture where a career choice becomes appropriate, I would give Kellogg's a ring and say,
Okay.
I can make cinnamon happen. And these next two are ads that I remember and know are brilliant. I mean, from memory, but haven't actually. I thought I won't watch these
My God,
until
we're going to rewatch them together in
we
real time.
watch them
Brilliant.
together,
Okay.
and it might be revealed that there's something awful wrong with me just from me choosing these ads. So
Braced. Consider me braced.
hang on a sec.
Loading the tab.
I'm going to type the words into YouTube. If you're drinking Bacardi.
Peckham on a wet Saturday afternoon. Next door's Budgie. Auntie Beryl. The Dog and Duck, down the High Street. Catching the last bus home. If you're drinking Bacardi.
I mean, I've got so many thoughts. It is as good as you remember. Um, no, no mention of the brand until 56 seconds in.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
gonna
great.
like just
Yeah, yeah,
really savor that. For it was like it needs to be in the first 5 seconds, or we're not gonna.
yeah.
Incredible. No, was there a poor shot? I don't know that there was a poor shot. There was just people just organically enjoying it in the bar.
It probably the cinematographer was like Roger Deakin, or
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah,
that
because it was
era
well
where
shot. It was well shot.
that era where British, working class British kids getting into advertising, and then before they go to Hollywood, it's probably directed by Ridley Scott or something. But
Things that irked me, if I may, the music. I am uncomfortable with the saxophone just as an instrument. It's just a personal, I'm not sophisticated enough to enjoy it. It just makes me anxious. So
I'm surprised this hasn't come up before. I hate saxophones too.
great, great. So we're aligned on that. That's great.
Yeah.
Why were all the men wearing the same thing? Is it because they were in a hot country and it's like all men just want to wear white and beige linen? Fine. There's a look.
Maybe they're dressed as Bacardi.
Maybe they're dressing. I don't know. Maybe it was like like a cultish thing. And we're meant to read some kind of message into the fact that they're like hurling themselves into this boat and off into we don't know where they're going. They're going somewhere fun.
Probably in the pre-prod, the client was like, "Is there really no mention of Bacardi until the 56th second?" And someone's gone, "We'll make the blokes dress up as Bacardi. That'll be fine."
There is a theme here, which is, and I've got one more, which it was an ad that ran through the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. We haven't got any examples. I think Chewits is the like Frutella, whatever, is the latest example that we've got, and that it can't be right. We have to be able to come up with some from the last, from when we've been working. No.
Well, that doesn't really count as our childhood, presumably.
No. And sorry, yeah. When are we saying? Yeah, you're right. You're right. It wasn't about childhood. It was about. Sorry, it was about childhood. It wasn't about all of our lives. You're right. Okay,
No.
so that's.
And I also think, I mean, at least I'm not sure that I mean, that's probably my teenage years, roughly, and the next one's probably slightly later. So I'm not sure how childhood it is. But also, the big thing I think about that, and maybe again it explains why there's no brand until the end, is it was a cinema ad because you couldn't put spirits on telly, and again, I that was part of going to the cinema for me. It would be on the pictures for every time you went for the whole of your life. It was just like, oh, it's going to be the Bacardi ad.
It's
And
funny because it went from the joke into just quite an attractive thing to watch, and you just let it wash over you, because the gag, like, it technically continues till the night bus, which is also a nice dated reference. They do technically still exist, but people just don't take them as much, right? Like, it's not like in the way that it was like a part of the night. Everybody knew they were getting the night bus.
Well, again, I think I'm old enough to be able to say this to you. I think it wasn't the night bus. It was the last bus home.
Okay, well, there you go.
Pre-night buses. So.
But just the lingering shot of the like extremely attractive woman and just Auntie Beryl is so good. I would say the gags are more up front, and then they ease off a bit.
Yeah. But again, a really good, like, look at something beautiful and have a fun gag. That you can't argue with that. Again, that is an easy sell.
Very easy, and got a budgie reference in there. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Do people even have budgies anymore?
I don't know. They probably don't. They also don't drink Bacardi, maybe. But I mentioned this to a friend of mine. I said, "Oh, I've got to think of ads," and he just said to me, "Catching the last bus home."
Oh, we didn't even need to say the brand name. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got my last one, and then your last one.
Yeah.
Right. We're not getting any faster at sharing these tabs. Not getting any better.
What we need is an account person who'd already
Yeah, exactly.
them up.
Here we go.
Oh, wow. It literally is Ridley Scott.
Last stop on round would be old Ma Peggoty's place. 'Twas like taking bread to the top of the world. 'Twas a grand ride back, though. I knew baker at half kettle on, and doorsteps of hot always ready. There's wheat germ in that loaf, he'd say. Get it inside you, boy, and you'll be going up that hill as fast as you come down.
Though this still has many times more wheat germ than ordinary bread. It's as good for you today as it's always been.
Great claim. It's a great claim.
Still has just as much wheat germ. Still, not despite what you've heard, there's still as much wheat germ.
I mean, that's kind of the opposite of the Bacardi ad in a few ways, but literally for me, because of the functional language, like, that's already quite triggering in terms of, like, we've had those conversations about, like, the claim, the wheat, like, so, as opposed to just like show some attractive people having a banging time in a hot place. Lovely, put some gags in, make it entertaining, and show it in the cinema where they're primed for entertainment. And guess what?
Yeah.
People will love it.
Yeah. But that, I mean, it was shot by Ridley Scott, and there's maybe 4 shots. There's going up the hill, coming down the hill, going in the house, pack shot, and all beautiful, extraordinarily lit, but slow, with mood and very, yeah.
The legs out, bumping, going down. As he's going up, you see and he has to rally. And
Yeah.
and the music, obviously, like I think it was probably the first piece of classical music I could even identify. And you'll never forget it.
No, really good, really good. Yeah. Right, I've got another one that I haven't seen for a long time and enormously formative.
Okay. Big.
Yeah, and it's remarkable when you think about what it's actually advertising as well. Shows you how much the world has changed. Oh, right, I need to share the thing.
That's why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning. That's why I'm easy. I'm easy like Sunday morning.
Wow. I mean, can I be honest about my impressions of that? I think that guy is just an utter bell end. Like really, really disliked him, like quite on like quite a visceral level.
Do you
I
remember
see the
that?
Sorry?
Do you remember that? Have you ever seen
No,
that
I don't.
before?
I don't. Because so Halifax for me, and this is one of the few times where I am like it is relevant to point out that we are different ages. Is Howard.
Oh God,
Yeah, you
yeah.
see, that's Halifax for me. It's a completely and lots of people who I owe a lot to in my career worked very, very hard on Halifax. So I want to acknowledge that. But it wasn't. It was a very different kind of advertising construct, I would say, Howard versus that.
Versus that man.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that it's advertising ATMs. Like you can put a card in the thing and get cash out, and they had to explain that, and that was a benefit. I mean, that was brilliant. The which is and Halifax and that milieu are not natural bedfellows, I'd say.
No, it's very early Shoreditch, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's I think it's Docklands pre Docklands. And it was for me certainly, and I suspect for a lot of people, that's the first time you've ever seen like a loft conversion.
Yeah.
Or not a loft, but no, what would you call it? It's like that kind of warehouse
Yeah.
thing. And I think it's because there weren't any. Like that was the one that there was. It was in Docklands, and I think subsequently lived in by Mark Lund of Delaney Fletcher Lund, Slaymaker Delaney Bozell Worldwide. But because I remember going to see his place once, and I think it was that flat which he'd rented off someone, and there was literally 2 or 3 places in Docklands that looked like that, like a bit like that New York kind of converted warehousey kind of thing.
So no wonder he had to have that milk delivered to his door because there's no shops. There would have been no shops.
No shops.
Yeah, because it was something. It was the kind of flat that you'd have in an American city, right? And it was quite a recent import here.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about your shallowness earlier. I remember watching that and going, I want that. How do I get that?
Yeah. No, I get how it's aspirational, but I also like the it was just so many things that irritated me. The shrug at the cat. What are you doing? Why are you shrugging? What does that mean? Does that mean like neither of you get any milk? So what's the shrug about? Like you're going to sort it out. Like why are you shrugging? That doesn't make any sense as a behavioural cue.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I didn't pass that at the time, and but I still remember again very viscerally the kind of gesture of just getting the money out.
Yeah. That's what. Look, I'll acknowledge that was well done, and explaining what an ATM is and showing like it does that job really well. So aspirational flat, like get the lifestyle. People are like, "Yup, I want that," and it it was a building society, right? Like that was associated with the town, and that to show that and to then kind of breach that distance, not nothing, like quite an accomplished thing.
Pre the sort of rediscovery of all that classic, or in the midst of all that rediscovery of all that classic soul stuff that things like Levi's did. So again, I think a lot of people, certainly of my age, had never heard Easy Like Sunday Morning, and because it was we hadn't had that thing of access to all music and where all that classic soul stuff had come back. So it's like, what is this song as well?
Yeah.
It was. You're right though. It's not as good as I remember. It's still.
Was it? Okay. Well, look, it wasn't like offensive, and there was, there's always a risk with this stuff that you'll be like, whoa, that's a dated trope. We can't like that.
I mean, and I suspect there's lots of property developers that owe their entire career to that ad.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Is that it? Well, what's good is like this is quite a reasonable length, especially if we edit out all the faffing about with screen sharing. So this is a nice moment to stop. But we could trail the questions for the next episode.
Yeah, let's.
Because we know what they are. Can you remember what they are?
Well, I can remember what they are. I don't know whether we want to name people the individual. Yeah.
First names only. Let's not, let's not
quite
have
right, quite right.
or anything.
Lindsay asks, why don't really good organisations stay like that beyond a brief moment in time? And a build, are there any counterexamples? Excellent question, Lindsay.
Yeah. Quite a different mood from, do you remember Tony the Tiger?
That's a serious one, yeah, no sugar gags. Etienne asks, what questions should people ask themselves every few months or years? And that's a very good question. It's also, there's a risk that it could become quite an existential, not at all related to work question. So that could get quite crunchy quite quickly. So
we might need to keep it in the work demand.
Yeah, it's going to need to be
have you done your expenses? That's a thing.
It's going to need some tethering in work rather than it could that could go lots of places. Some good, some bad.
Yeah. Well, so thank you, Lindsay and Etienne. Thank you, anonymous individual who asked us the question about the ads, because I enjoyed that.
Very much, yeah. And thanks to my siblings for their contributions also.
Yeah. I enjoyed our discovery of our mutual antipathy for the saxophone.
The saxophone,
yeah. In a later episode.
Yeah, and unsubscribe to saxophones. Cool. We'll see you for episode 4.
Yes, this is 3. Yeah. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.